Hello everyone, I am Mullet Mania New York, an ace trainer from Buffalo, New York. Going to go over one of our retro throwback Silph Cups that we did this past weekend, where we threw back and did the Sinister Cup meta, a fan favorite, with a lot of our competitors voting for this one as a possible option to do. A lot of new additions that made this tournament a little more interesting than the last, where some of the Galarian new additions definitely made a nice splash in the meta, with Stunfisk and Berserker and even Galarian Farfetch'd making an appearance into this meta. So here we see a lot of our new additions that competitors have picked. I've gotten a couple of new upgrades for my team. I replaced half of what I used back when the meta was fresh. Some of the move upgrades for some Pokemon definitely made them rise in the rankings and made it a lot more competitive and more worrisome matchups that you might not have expected. So here we've got some of our points outlines. I was able to secure the sweep, not without pulling more of my hair out than I would have liked to have done. But what we're going to do here now is go over my team and why I picked some of them, especially with some of the new additions that were introduced more recently since the meta has concluded. So originally I ran a lot of double ghost with a single steel, but this time I've swapped over to having double steel instead of double fighting, with some of these new additions kind of having dual roles, such as Berserker, which I believe we're going to talk about first. He is a very feisty little cat. Very much enjoyed using him as a safe swap with instead of Dusclops. Dusclops was a very good safe swap in the original meta, but Berserker definitely solidified a spot on my team because of its utility. So having access to both Shadow Claw, Foul Play, and Close Combat made it a wonderful addition, given that it can hit the Psychics, the Ghosts, and the Steels for super effective damage, and relatively low energy costs and fast energy gains can make it a very useful tool for your team. Next is the new Galarian Stunfisk. I didn't get a lot of practice with him originally, but it actually saved me in a couple of the matches that we'll see later on. The fast charging and spammy rock slides just made for a very wonderful Pokemon. My new Psychic type, we brought Cresselia. Grass Knot was a nice addition for the rise in rankings for the new edition of Golurk. And then the Moonblast spam, if anyone knows Ultra League, it's a pain in the butt, but that was my Psychic type. And we've got our Ghosts. Dusclops. My favorite Dusclops. Was a wonderful addition, getting a rank 2. The Fire Punches are definitely useful for playing against the Steels. Shadow Punch is very, very spammy for all the other Ghosts and Psychic types. This was a must-have, and I could not drop him from my team. Poliwrath was my chosen fighter. He didn't get a lot of play. I actually preferred using Berserker as a pseudo-fighter, but Poliwrath with its spammy dynamic punches and the Hydro Pump nuke to threaten the Alolan Marowak was always a added bonus. Speaking of Alolan Marowak, this is one of my favorite Pokemon. Every time it's been legal, I've been trying to push it onto my team, with the one exception I didn't quite make it for my regional qualifying team, but I do enjoy this Pokemon an awful lot. Would highly recommend having one, especially with the Fire Spin for the steel damage. Shadow Ball obviously can KO just about any of the Ghosts, and for the Psychic matchups. So some of the things that may have given my team issues was stuff like Mawile, because not having a knowledge of what the fast attack it would have would be Bite, would be shredding through half my team of the Ghosts and Cresselia, or Fire Fang for my Steels. So we're going to jump into round 1 and take a look at how my battles went. So here we are against Chris, round 1, game 1, leading with the Dusclops into his Ferrothorn, which is a good matchup for us because we've got the secondary Fire Punch, which is going to be double super effective. Very favorable matchup for us. Dusclops doesn't really have a lot that he was afraid of on his team because we don't know the fast attack on his Mawile that he has. He makes a brilliant switch out to catch the Fire Punch on a Pokemon, I believe his Drifblim, which we've got the safe swap of Berserker. Very fast charging, super effective foul plays. Don't really like Drifblim as much this meta because of the nerf to Ominous Wind, though Icy Wind does threaten to lower a lot of my Pokemon's attacks. It's just not going to be super effective against my stuff, especially given that Berserker is a Steel type. So we can see that he can tank an Icy Wind fairly easily. He's a little on the glassier side, has a higher attack stat than I would have liked, but he still gets the job done. You get a little greedy with some of my play on Berserker because of how attack weighted, so the Shadow Claws do tend to hit a little bit harder, but that's alright. We see that he can still take a decent couple of punches. And here's that one new addition I wasn't really expecting a lot of people to pick up on, is the Galarian Farfetch'd. Having Fury Cutter with access to both Leaf Blade and Brick Break can get to those charge attacks very quickly. But luckily, having Double Ghost doesn't really take a lot of bad damage from either of those charge attacks. So I believe this is going to be a Leaf Blade. Not familiar with the matchup, so I'm just going to let this one go through to see how much a Leaf Blade is actually going to hit me for. Not that bad for fairly defense-weighted Dusclops. So we're just going to keep on throwing stab shadow punches at it to try to burn it down. Maybe get a shield here. I know he doesn't want to bring Ferrothorn into this matchup because of the Fire Punch, but he has no idea that I've got the Marowak in the back. A lot of my lines tended to rely on the double Ghost and a Steel strategy, or double Steel and a Ghost. It seemed to work wonders for me back in October, and it did wonders for me this particular tournament as well. So I want to try to snag a Fire Punch onto that Ferrothorn and back, so I'm going to try and shield this and keep my Dusclops up. But that Fury Cutter just charges so fast, and Hex is a little bit slower of a move than I would have liked it to be, so unfortunately I had to let this guy go. I suppose luckily for me that he is tanky enough to be able to fire off one more Shadow Punch. Don't really want to let him get too much farm on there, so I'm going to try to switch out as soon as possible, because the Fire Spin is doing double super effective is going to make mincemeat of this Ferrothorn, which was a nice new addition because a lot of people ran Poliwrath back then, so having the access to Bullet Seed, which got buffed, and Power Whip to super effective smack those Poliwraths around, not a bad pick. Not my particular favorite, given how much surprise fire damage and fighting that is also in the meta. Both like Metacham can actually punch through this particular steel type fairly well, and then the Fire Spin alone in Marowak. So this is pretty much a wrap from game one. Enjoyed not seeing the Mawile because we don't know what it's got, whether Bite or Fire Fang, so we will see if he wraps it or brings it in for game two. So I believe we do the same trio with the same lead, and here is the Mawile. So I'm hoping that it's Fire Fang, given that I only brought the one steel type, and it is Fire Fang. So my ghosts are relatively safe against this. I'm going to try and land some extra fire punches onto this guy, with it being a fairy and steel type. Very unique typing, but I've got favorable matchups against it lined up because of my double Ghost against the Fire Fang instead of Bite. So he switches out. Got a first appearance of Galarian Stunfisk, so we're going to try and throw Fire Punch. It's super effective, but Galarian Stunfisk has upwards of 165 or more health with decent PvP IVs, so this is kind of a pain. And Earthquake would be a real problem for Berserker. Rock Slide spam would be a problem for Alolan Marowak, so this is not exactly the best situation to be in. Just going to try to catch a Rock Slide on the Berserker. Did not go for it. And he knows I can charge up pretty quickly here, so I'm going to call that he's going straight Earthquake. We got the shield correct. So I'm just going to try to burn this thing down, get a little extra energy because he's not going to get to another Earthquake for a little while. And I'm not the best at counting much shots to get to Earthquake, but we're just not going to risk it. Some shields. I'm pretty close to another foul play, so let's try for that again. Swaps out to the Galarian Farfetch'd, so this is not good at all. Locking my steel type against his fighter, but at least it's not the Mawile. So just hitting the yellow, and I know I can tank a Leaf Blade because I'm steel typing, I should resist, but this Brick Break destroys me. Very unfortunate. Probably should have shielded, but I know my Dusclops can come in and still tank a couple of hits from them. Fire off a Shadow Punch. This will not KO, but at least it's going to put it very, very close to, so if need be, then the Marowak can come in and kind of get some extra farm. Going to save that shield for any potential Rock Slides that could come from the Stunfisk. There we go, get like 2 Fire Spins of energy. Comes back in with the Mawile, which is nice. This is just going to be a power punch. I'm pretty sure I resist every charge attack that Mawile could have, being Power Punch or Iron Head or Play Rough. Get a lot of farm, and here's where I make a mistake. It's in the red, and I fire a Shadow Ball for some reason. Bit of overkill, but kind of have this in the bag. I know Galarian Stunfisk is pretty low in the back, and I still got a shield. So be mindful of your opponent's energy and their health bar, because you don't want to be using excess of your own energy. So like I said, got a shield, and then I can just throw one more Fire Spin and take out this Stunfisk. And now we're on to game 3. Knowing that my ghosts are safe, I run the same line, but I believe I lead with Berserker this time. Right into Drifblim. This is a hugely win matchup for me. Just gonna punch it with a bunch of Shadow Claws. Here comes the Duck. I'm gonna swap right into Dusclops. Probably could have waited a little bit to try and time it and catch a Brick Break on a Ghost, but Fury Cutter being such a quick move, I didn't really want to try to count it and flop on that because of any potential lag. These are just going to be a bunch of Leaf Blades. I do like my Dusclops a lot. After having to invest so much dust in it for rank 2, from when it was back at like level 7, and it has to be maxed at level 40. Kind of want to keep it and use it as much as I can. So we've seen this matchup before. We're just going to keep on throwing Shadow Punches at this Duck. It's fairly low defense, so these punches do add up. Another Leaf Blade coming through. Really hadn't thought about this Duck before, but I know a couple people seem to like it. I'm really hoping to see how Surfetched can change the meta up. I was actually very surprised that this wasn't a flying type at all for being a Duck. For some reason switches into Drifblim. I don't know if he wanted to catch my energy or not, but this just doesn't seem like a very favorable matchup for him, because I can still tank in. I was faint on the Shadow Punch. But safe option here, come in with Berserker. A Icy Wind won't KO. Might be out of Shadow Ball. I kind of risk it. Luckily, just take an attack debuff and farm a bit of extra energy. Possibly could have farmed it down, but I believe I would have had to take another Icy Wind or possibly a Shadow Ball to do so. Didn't want to risk it. Just going to take on what's it back, which is going to be another Galarian Duck. Call that a lucky swap. Those are just a tickle. Being a ghost typing, it just doesn't care. So we're still up a shield. Lolden Marowak's got a little bit of energy. And here we've got the Medicham. So this is very unfortunate for him, given that I did still bring the same lineup of double ghosts instead of extra steals. Medicham would have made very short work of the Stunfisk. So all we need to do is land that. And here we are. We're on to round 2. Against Matthew Brewer, an elite trainer, one of the top guys out of the UK. A little nervous going into this. He's got a very similar line to mine. We talked a bit about this before. So this is not a good matchup for me, given that foul play is going to be super effective and he can get to those pretty quickly. Probably just as quick as I am, because Hex goes a little bit slower but generates more energy overall. These fire punches are going to hurt. Luckily he lets those go through. I believe he's trying to charge up to 2 foul plays to really put the hurting on me. I'm going to shield the first one, possibly try to swap out and catch the second. We luck out and do to try and catch this foul play. Hopefully it's a foul play, because a close combat would really set us back. Still hurts a lot, but here we are. It's a fairly favorable matchup. I was ahead on energy, so I should be able to get to these foul plays a little bit faster than any potential Icy Winds or Shadow Balls. Snag a shield from him, so now we're back to even shields. I think he overfarmed a little bit there, which was a smart play on his part. Probably could have just gotten away with an icy wind, but decided to go for the guaranteed KO. Come back in with my loaded energy on my Dusclops, trying to take this balloon out, because this was honestly the bane of my existence when Sinister was around the first time, because of how bait dependent the Ominous Wind Shadow Ball matchups were for this, and I did not run the proper moveset on my original Dusclops. I went Feint Attack, which was honestly a no-no. It just made the Dusclops matchup a super big pain. So I am a little debuffed here, but I have very little health. I just want to try to hit something. Hopefully I can KO this. But I believe he's just going to shield. Nope. Lets it go. And he's got Slowbro in the back. This is not good. I did not expect a water gun Slowbro, so I just have to hope to God that he doesn't shield, because I think I can win going straight Shadow Balls. We're going to see. Hopefully he doesn't give me the defense drop, because these water guns will start to really hurt. So we're going to fire the Shadow Ball. Did not like where I was in case he had Water Pulse, but unfortunately, I guess good for me, he didn't shield. He ends up going down, up a shield. Whew. Tough break, lucky for me. Thanks for that. This game is wild. We both lead Galarian Stunfisks into each other here. This is pretty much just who baits who the best. And I don't know what came over me to decide that I'm just going to go straight Earthquake. Either he calls my bluff and I'm a little bit behind, or I'm going to KO him right here, right now. Smartly shields. I'm going to try and farm up some more. I'm going to match shields. Just not right now. I got super lucky. Man, is that gutsy, and I kind of regret it. But we're going to keep going. Try and go straight Earthquake again. CMP Tide. I believe he gets me here. Yeah. What are you going to do? Throw the Earthquake. I believe he shields this one again, so at least I'm still up in shields. And now he makes a brilliant play. He wants to farm up the energy. Here we match the shields. So he's better at counting than I am. So he knows I'm just to an Earthquake, swaps out. Thing is, really didn't have any intention of throwing right away, because I knew he just threw and he wasn't going to be at one. So luckily I'm at double Rock Slides for this flying balloon. So we're just going to farm a little bit more, and erase another one of his Pokemon. So while time was on the swap, I kind of got a little lucky there. So gonna knock out his Drifblim. He comes back with the Stunfisk. I'm still ahead on energy because he recently threw, and we're going to take it out with an Earthquake. So if you were considering any upgrades for your Sinister Cup teams, I would actually suggest you go for a Stunfisk. It's up there on the rankings on PvPoke for a reason. So I know he's trying to double up on foul plays. I just need to fire off these fire punches as quick as I can. Yes, I had Marowak, but probably should have went straight Marowak, to be fair. But I knew I pretty much had this game in the bag, given that my Stunfisk took out 2 of his, and I still have all 3 of mine up. So just going to go with the safe swap. He doesn't need to know what was really on my lines. Just going to farm it on down and KO with a Shadow Punch. And that was a very wild and unpredictable game 2. Got pretty lucky. On to game 3. So, as you might notice with a lot of my lines, I run the Dusclops lead with Berserker and Marowak in back. It's one of my favorite trios to run. This time I brought the Poliwrath, because he was very favorable of his Berserker. And this will leave my Marowak there to help against any other potential steals or ghosts that he might have. and the fact that Poliwrath doesn't take super effective from anything that Berserker can throw. Just going to get a little extra farm, and we're going to try to dynamic punch this thing down. With the debuff, it's kind of wrong to shield here, in my opinion. Don't believe he does. Oh, he does. It just makes me want to burn my energy. Throw another dynamic punch. This is why I think it was kind of a wasted shield, because he was debuffed. He did get me very, very low, but Poliwrath was really only here to do one thing and get rid of the steals. And he actually burns both shields. I guess that's kind of smart, given how valuable that Berserker can be against the ghost types. But thing is, all that energy he stored up, I've still got 2 shields. So having Fire Spin Marowak come in, try to farm him down before he can fire off both foul plays, but I believe he was already at 2, so I sneak in 1 to do a huge chunk of damage because of that defense drop. Just going to shield again. Going to keep my energy up, keep this Marowak healthy. Wisely swaps out, but because of the extra energy, I'm able to get to the Shadow Ball before he gets to anything. I'm unsure if he's got Water Pulse, but just don't want this thing on the board anymore. So that's out. I get a little extra farm on this, so it's not taking super effective water gun damage on the Marowak. And now we know he's got the Drift Glim, so I'm up to 2 Shadow Punches. We're just going to fire these off back to back. Not going to KO with these because they are just more of a spammy attack versus a huge nuke like a Shadow Ball. But just want to secure these extra points. Very delightful games. A lot of fun. Very cool new additions to the teams that we've got going on here, but just got some favorable leads, and I just really, really liked my team. There we go. We're going to take game 3. GG's, Matt. Always a pleasure. On to round 3. I'm going to play against Rob, the Magician. I've never played him before, so these games were very tricky. I don't know his play tendencies, but luckily I was able to catch a decent lead. I wouldn't call it a real win, just because Dusclops doesn't hit very hard. He just doesn't go down either. Expecting a swap out, so I didn't really want to throw right away, but you know, he made the right play of staying in, because Shadow Punches, they are super effective. They don't do very much. Cresselia is super tanky, for those that remember Cresselia from GBL and Ultra League. Probably still having nightmares from it. But, you know, we're just going to keep chugging away at it, hoping to not get any sort of attack debuff from this upcoming Moonblast. Nothing he throws is going to be super effective, so we're just going to let it go. No attack debuff. Perfect. Can keep throwing these Shadow Punches. Shockingly, though, gets to another move. Not a Moonblast, though. It's a Future Sight. So I lost a lot of energy. But luckily I've got my Steel type that can do super effective damage with the Shadow Claws and the Foul Plays. Got a little greedy there trying to farm it down. So I'm going to commit the shield, keep my Berserker healthy, and probably take 1 more Shadow Claw to KO. No attack drop again. How's that for luck? In comes the Metacham. Bad news for me. I believe these Foul Plays are neutral because of the Psychic Fighting typing, so I'm going to try and fire off 2 of these, see how they do. Got a shield. And this was a mistake. I believe I did this just so that he couldn't farm me down as much, because I'm going to get the attack drop, or defense drop. Swap into Poliwrath. One of the few times I even brought the Poliwrath. Just didn't seem to fit. I enjoyed my core, should have stuck to it. I knew the matchups for them. And having double steel kind of pushed him to bring the fighting type, and having double ghost definitely made it significantly easier to handle said fighter. So I'm going to try and go for the Hail Mary on the Hydro Pump. And everybody knows that you shield things from Haunter, because it's just so glassy. So I am out of shields. I believe the Shadow Punch is going to KO me. No, but the Impending Claws will. And we're going to take our first loss of this tournament. GG's, Rob. This was an eye-opener for me to worry about some of these guys. That punch hurt. Game 2. We adjusted the strategy a bit. This time I believe we lead with Marowak. Trying to catch anything. This is still pretty good. The fire typing is going to help to resist the Moonblast, and the Shadow Balls are huge as well. In comes the Haunter. We go Berserker. Both fairly glassy, both have Shadow Claws, but look how much I'm doing to him just from Shadow Claws. I believe I get a little too greedy here and try to farm him just straight down, but that means I'm going to have to commit shields. It's just shredding him so much. Didn't think it would make it to another move, but Shadow Claw is Shadow Claw. So I'm going to let this one go. Got kind of lucky there. A little bit of lags that caused him to get another fast attack and nearly KOs me. I try and sneak in some foul plays. I wanted to say I was at 2, but I saw a Psycho Cut come through. Took some health off of me, and I dropped before I can fire off that second one. Luckily, got double Ghost. Haunter is gone. We feel pretty good here. Even on shields. Just hoping to not get the attack drop here from a Moonblast. Smartly goes Future Sight. That chunks. That hurts. Let's see if we can get the last shield off of him before I can probably just go into Dusclops. Major damage. Timed it right. Hopefully we don't get that drop. I believe this might be another Future Sight, so we're just going to shield. It was a Moonblast. Again, no attack drop. Should have played the lottery that day. And Cresselia being so tanky, I could not farm it down. Dusclops just does not have that oomph of a hit. It's alright. Moonblast. That time we lost the attack, but we're in luck. We have a buttload of energy for this Medicham. Yes, our attack dropped, but he is just not going to do that much to us because of his fighting. All of his fighting attacks. So we're just going to keep throwing as many Shadow Punches as we can. Maybe we can switch out to Marowak, clear my debuff. And we've got 2 Ghosts for these 2 particular Pokemon that don't like facing Ghosts. Shadow Punch after Shadow Punch after Shadow Punch. Get the last shield. Go into Marowak to clear the debuff. Missed a fast attack or took an extra fast attack because this, Niantic is wonderful for their game mechanics. Try to get a little extra energy on the Marowak for hopefully landing a Shadow Ball, but I believe this is just a Power Punch or an Ice Punch. But I was wrong on both. Alright. So let's try to get some extra energy here. Don't have much left on that Cresselia though, so I believe it's just a Hex. But not going to risk it. Did not want to go down 0-2. So now we tied things up for the decisive game 3. Here we go. Let's start off with Dusclops again. Into Marowak. So if this is Fire Spin, we've won the lead. Smartly is. So this is great for us. Just going to keep on plugging away. All he's really got that can do massive damage to us is a Shadow Ball. We can tank one. We don't want to tank it though. We want to keep our Dusclops for everything else. Just going to keep throwing Shadow Punches at it. Hexes are doing significantly more damage to it than these Fire Spins are. Like I said, can tank one. Would prefer not to, so I'm just going to shield this Shadow Ball. Called it. Awesome. Keep farming up some extra energy in case he swaps out. Expecting a shield here. He does. We're almost to another one. Let's try and throw it again. Make sure that shield seemingly was used for nothing. Not sure how close he was to a Shadow Ball, but might have just caught him missed fast attack. So we are going to shield this again. Might as well match it to win the lead and keep switch advantage. Called again on the Shadow Ball. Fire Spin's added up enough that would have KO'd, and now I can just farm him down. Here we are with a Mawile. This one is a Bite Mawile, so this is awful. Did not see the Mawile. Honestly forgot while recording this that he was even on the team, but luckily had a lot of energy, able to get 2 fire punches off before fainting. This should KO, or at least give me enough that I can just 1 fast attack farm it down. We got the KO. Dusclops putting in that work. And now we have Medicham against a Lowland Marowak. Psychics will hurt, but I will get to a Shadow Ball before he gets to 2 Psychics, so we managed to pull this one out. After dropping game 1, we're going to pull back and win 2 in a row to push into the finals. Just praying he didn't have excessive energy and then get a defense drop. So we're going to throw the Shadow Ball, and that is a wrap. Oof, great game, Rob. Finals against Phil, my old buddy Phil. Love to see it, but hate to see it because he's a tremendous battler. We call a very favorable lead for us because a lot of the attacks that Cresselia has will not be very effective. So we've got our double ghosts. This just isn't very good for us. The Mud Slaps would have been very super effective for my Berserker and my Marowak. So luckily we weren't able to, or we weren't locked in for this one. We got the favorable. Yes, it's got Shadow Punch as well, and Dusclops is a lot more tanky than Golurk. It's just probably a height deficiency thing. Look how tall that Golurk is compared to Dusclops. It's just, whew. Wish I had one of these myself. Finally see one, and one of the big reasons I picked my Cresselia for having Grassland was to be able to counteract these. And if you've noticed from any of the previous battles, I haven't touched Cresselia once. So we're just going to try and keep beating him to the Shadow Punches, because Hex seems to charge a little bit faster than the Mud Slaps. Back comes the Cresselia. Going to get off, I believe, 2 more Shadow Punches before going down. Psycho Cut kind of tickles. It's just very good at energy generation, so we're just going to try and put in as much damage to this Cresselia as I see. But then I noticed it's Confusion. It's not going to get to as many as many charge attacks because that's a Confusion Cresselia. I guess that's kind of smart. A lot of the fighters don't really like to get hit with Confusion. But we're just going to keep throwing foul plays now with Berserker. Try and take this big space fetus down, whatever this thing is. Try to farm it, but it's just so tanky. So I'm going to commit the shield. I don't know what he's gotten back, but we're going to try to keep my matchups favorable, and this extra energy they've got swaps in. It's Medicham. The smart play here would have been to switch out instead of saving my energy, but I believe Marowak could have handled both of them anyway, so just going to throw some damage into it because now it's definitely in Shadow Ball range. And Lowland Marowak set up like this, with Cresselia super low, up against a fighting type with, well, my shields are down, his are not. Still a very favorable position for me to be in. So I'm just going to throw this Bone Club to try and chip away. Fire Spin should be able to finish it off. Don't believe he remembered how much health he had left on his Cresselia. Should be able to Fire Spin that one down as well. These punches just aren't doing much of anything. In comes the Cresselia. Yep, again, not a lot of health. Could have shielded, but I think this was all for naught. So we're on to game 2, where I believe Phil makes one of the gnarliest adjustments I've seen. Brings in the problematic Bastiodon. This thing just kind of laughs at my Dusclops here. I don't remember a lot of the matchups that I had. I believe the correct play is just to keep going Fire Punches. And because I wasn't sure, you'll see in this that I actually just kind of tested the waters to see what does more damage. And I know that Bastiodon's, it's very tanky, so its attack stats relatively low. It just sits there and takes punch after punch after punch. Literally, given that Shadow Punch, Fire Punch. But so we're going to see which one actually does better, and I should have kept going Fire Punch. Figured maybe that the stab shadow punches would have been better, but I was wrong. Fire punch was definitely the correct move. He's just going to farm me down with those hard-hitting smackdowns and have a buttload of energy for whatever I come in with. So I knew he had flamethrower, so I'm going to start with Berserker, sneak in one Shadow Claw, and swap. That was fairly dangerous because had this been a Stone Edge, it would really hurt, but because he saw Berserker, I had a feeling he would throw a flamethrower, and I called it. So I'm trying to get myself back ahead. Yes, the smackdowns are super effective, so this is a very dangerous route to go. Bone Club is super effective. Hoping to just get this thing out of there. And for some reason, lets it go. I know it was really low, and but this makes total sense. Having this in back is a nightmare for me because of the Mud Slap's going to be super effective to both of my remaining Pokemon. So this was a great adjustment on his part. And in my head, I'm thinking what I need to do to adjust for Game 3, because pretty sure I'm going down with my shields up. At this point, there's really no reason to shield. I do just to make it a little bit more interesting, possibly try to see what he had as his third Pokemon, but this is pretty much game over. Really made me start kicking myself that I should have been doing more of those excellent throws in a row tasks for a level 15 Golett to have one of these for Great League. So I was able to farm it down, but lost with a shield up. So we had to adjust. Not a bad matchup for us. Would have preferred Dusclops or Marowak in the lead for this, but digress. I believe he brought the Ferrothorn in expectation for me bringing Poliwrath to counter that Bastiodon, but we adjusted differently. We'll see how that plays out. Power Whip, even resisted, still kind of hurts. Berserker being fairly glassy. We're going to see what we can do here. I think we're going to bait with a Foul Play. Nope. Going straight for the double close combat, and then we can probably swap out. Hopefully he lets this one go, but I believe he shields. He does. I have another one, but he does swap out. Of course, into the Ghost. Nice catch on his part. Should have been paying attention. Should have been expecting that. But here we come in with the Dusclops. And the way we're currently lined up, we're really hoping that he's got double steel in the back, which we know one of them is Ferrothorn, which is great. Berserker should be able to handle it, and so can Dusclops with Fire Punch. But we're hoping he still brought that Bastiodon for my Marowak, but sneakily didn't bring it this time. Alright. Golett goes down, which is great. We've got double steel in back. We needed that to go away. Even on shields. In comes Ferrothorn. Should be able to tank a Power Whip. Gonna let this one go. It's a Flash Cannon. Gotta love that change to Bullet Seed. Gonna get this Fire Punch off. This should KO, given that it's double super effective, or we want to really want to get this shield. Don't. So what does he have him back? Did I call it? I called it. Bastiodon was kind of a pain, given that my best answers were Poliwrath, which doesn't have a lot of favorable matchups against the squad that he had. Trying to get to a close combat to burn that last shield. We do get to it, so he has to burn the shield here. Which he smartly does, because he's still expecting the little Marowak in back. And I shouldn't just mess around. I gotta come in with the Stunfisk. And for some reason, I was worried that he was going to get to double flamethrowers, and forgot that my Stunfisk has, like previously mentioned, over 170 health. So even if he does get to 2, I've got a lot of health on this thing, still in the green, and I'm already at the Earthquake to KO. Super effective, still above half. GG's, Phil. That was wild. I know you mentioned before that you were really hoping I brought the Marowak, and honestly, probably was considering it and just kind of gut-wrench switched. And it paid off. So great games. And there you have it. 4-round sweep. Very fun tournament. I loved this meta. It's probably one of my favorite to date. Definitely my favorite from Season 2. Any excuse to use my ghosts is A-okay in my book. So if you have a future Sinister Cup coming up, or if you maybe potential mirror, give this team a look. Sorry I didn't use Cresselia that much, but it was definitely worth a try. Could probably fit on a lot of people's teams. The double ghost and double steel, the new additions definitely made this meta very new and fresh. Exciting to do, and hope everybody liked this video. Thanks for watching.